Hello, this is going to be my first devlog video, and it's going to cover the demonstration as well as a code walkthrough of the operating standards update program I wrote for my fraternity, Lambda Chi Alpha. Its purpose is to take the information on a minute or a meeting minutes document, like this document. It will take the information, right now the bonus standards, and it will transfer it over to a spreadsheet, like this one, and fill in the information on the corresponding spreadsheet for the corresponding date, and it will update it so it can be used in the future. It's written in JavaScript using Google's AppScript platform, and the operator will, all they have to do is click the run button after ensuring that the document ID and the sheet ID are correct. And these IDs won't change ever after the first use because this document will reset after running the program so that you can use it again without having to change anything. It will then also create copies of the document before it resets, as well as copies of the information that's added to the spreadsheet, and put it into the Google Drive file of your choosing. So I'm going to start with the demonstration. So before running it, you want to make sure to look at these two settings to make sure they're how you want them. And I do want it creating copies. I do want resetting the document to fit the template. So I'll click run. It takes a while to create a copy of a Google document, which is the reason for the long run time. If it doesn't have that stuff turned on, it's usually around, like, I don't know, 10 seconds max. I mean, that might have been seconds. But, so it resets that. The information in here is all updated, as you can see. And then it will also notify the operator of any names that were on here, which I'll restore it so we can see how it looked before. Restore this version. As you can see, Pirati Knight is spelled like a medieval knight. It's actually, there's no K. There's no K in it. And because of this, it doesn't, well, he gained 0 bonus standards anyways, but it doesn't update it because the name's spelled wrong. But it will notify the operator so they can put it in manually, which will cover any spelling mistake issues. And then it also creates the copy document and the copy spreadsheet. It'll show up if I refresh. And these, so the document is a copy, an exact one-to-one of this from before it's deleted, except it doesn't have the link to the operating standards update program, so that users don't click on that link, or I guess general members. You can see exact same, except I have some stuff highlighted. And then this is the spreadsheet that has all the information. And so it has their names, it has the bonus standards that like changed, it has the reasons, and it will automatically fit the text boxes to fit the text. So it's easy for the reader to see all the things that contributed to the bonus standards total for that specific meeting. Aside from that, the demonstration is, or the short demonstration is over, and I'm going to begin the code walkthrough. So the code starts with a bunch of options that are available to the operator. The options of what they do are covered in this instruction manual. And you can see there's going to be more to the instruction manual, such as how to fix errors that happen in the code, but I have not done that yet. So the options, we start with reset live doc to template, which all that does is it, if I go back here, it'll reset it to this version where it's got a fill-in for the date, it's got the call to order time, resets all of the reports. And in the case that you put your name next to it, so Williams, and then my number, it will keep that if you reset it. The document ID, sheet ID, and folder ID are pretty easy to set up. You have your document, you just go up here, you copy what's after the D and what's before the edit. You can paste it in, see the exact same ID. Same for the spreadsheet, and for the folder, it is just the last set of text in the URL. Create copies. All this does is enable or disable if you want to create the copies for this, like these two. You're pretty much never going to have that turned off. It was just an option so that during testing, it wouldn't, fill up whatever folder I was using. Okay. So we begin the main function, which at first it makes sure that you have access to the document in the spreadsheet. It does this by trying to open it, getting the name, and then trying to set the name to itself so that it doesn't actually change anything, but you have to have edit permission to be able to run these commands. If something goes wrong, it'll let the user know and then ask them to review their permissions. It's the exact same thing with the spreadsheet. It's, opens, gets the name, sets the name to itself. The variables here are set up to keep information that is found by reading through the document, because the structure of the code is, let's see, it opens up the document's lines, the paragraphs, puts it in here. And so that's a list that contains all these lines. So this is like one element, this is the next one, next one, next one, next one. So you can go down really easily, it's all organized. And then the short time string and year string is it takes, or well, I guess we'll get to that later. But it also sets up a map for bonus standards, which is, a hash map, a dictionary, whatever you want to call it. And then it has a mode. And that is so that this program can be expanded upon in the future to also include things such as fines or demerits. Okay, so it takes the doc line, it is going to iterate through every single line. So start up here, read that, go down, go down, go down, go down. It'll read all the lines. And then each line it reads, it checks to see if it's formatted in this format, which is this line. It's that way you can put the time whatever time you are running this, and the first occurrence is going to set itself to be the time of the time that it knows that this meeting happened, because it needs to look on this spreadsheet, needs to find the same date and time. It needs it for the copy doc name, copy sheet name. So it's pretty necessary. So it will run this regex. I think it's regex. And then it will check to see if the long time string, or it's a long time match that's found, which would be this, it's valid. Because if it runs this on a line and it runs it on this line, that's not going to be a valid execution of the regular expression, and it's going to return 0 as a boolean if you try to check it for a boolean value. So if that's true and the short time string hasn't been set up yet, because if it's empty, it's falsy. So it has to have an available short time string, and it has to have the line match long time format. If that's true, it'll set the short time string to be the output of this function, which what this function does is, I'll go down to it. But what this function does is it will convert a long time string into a short time string, like November 32nd, 2024 to 11/32/2024. And we can scroll down to find that right here. Just going to organize these so we can go through them later. I don't think, yeah, it's just right below the main function, so I keep it in order. So the shortened time string function, what this does is it has a map set up to convert the month to whatever, unit or whatever number it is. And then it will return a value that is the month converted to a number plus a /, and then plus the date that's found, which in the regular expression, it is grouped by the month and then the number followed by like end th rd, whatever type of number it is, which is these three, because it's always, oh wait, no, sorry, but right, it's either 2 or 3, but it'll do that. It will, and then it has the year, which is 0 to 9 4 times, and that year is not actually part of the long time match, because in here it only cares about the month and the day. So that's why it's set up like that, because it'll just put in a year later. Okay. So sets up the long time match. It has these, which it's not decided yet if this is going to do that. So it's just fully set up for the bonus standards mode. And to detect if it's in bonus standards mode, it checks to see if the line looks like this, where it starts with bonus standards, has whatever else after it. So you can have a people's name, you can have this little hyphen if you want. Because people format the document differently, and I just want to make it work for as many standard formats that people choose. And if the mode is blank, it's going to enter bonus standards mode. And so once that's true, it's going to keep looking for the time match, just in case it's put somewhere else. Like if it's put at the end, it'll be able to find it. Otherwise, it's at the start, find it there. But, and then this is the code to reset the mode, which if the indent resets to, so like for example, the indent will start here, read that it's bonus standards, switch into bonus standards mode, go through all the bonus standards. I guess we can look at this for that. So, go down. These are all the same indent, and then once it resets back to 32 or 36, it will clear out the mode so that if it, goes to demerits or fines, or maybe it'll even look through old business if bonus standards are put in old business, if it needs to be. But right now, that's never happened. Okay. And then if the mode is B, it will run the bonus standards, the read bonus standards function, which I'll show you what it does in a second. But if the date isn't formatted properly, this runs after the for loop. It will tell the operator, hey, the date's not, it couldn't be found anywhere. Make sure it's following this format. Try again. And then that doesn't update any of the information, because that is all updated past here. Okay, but reading the bonus standards is the next big function. And so what this does is it gets the line, as you put in the map so that it can be edited, and then you put in the lines so that it has that list of everything, and then you have the index. And it would just put in the raw line itself, but it needs to look forward to see information such as passes or tabled. Because if something is like tabled or failed, oh, oops, or failed, it will be zero, sorry, like how we saw during the demonstration. All the like Purdy Knight got a 0 on his bonus standard, which you wouldn't think would be reported, but since it's tabled, it's because this -1 was set to a 0. And I wanted to keep the information in the copy sheet. So these two got set to 0 because these three, I guess, because this bonus standards like allocation, I guess, was tabled and is going to be discussed at the next meeting. Or if it fails and it isn't discussed at all, it's going to not negatively impact them or positively impact them if it was a positive number. But the next part of the code is right this. So it finds the line as raw text, and then it will match this regular expression to the line. And so what this does is it's got 4 groups, or yeah, 4 groups technically, only 3 are used, which is the number amount, the bonus standards 2, and then the names, and then the reason. If it doesn't fit the line, so because it goes through every single line, it doesn't want to skip any. So if it reads something like passes, it knows it's not formatted correctly and it will skip it. And then the amount is, the first group. The members are the second group, and they are formatted into a list by by replacing everything. Although filler text like brother, comma, and, all that, it'll replace it to just be commas between everything. So for this, it'll change this text to be like this. And then it takes this, splits it into a list. Which is just done by splitting it. And then it will use that list later to give out the bonus standards properly. And then the reason is, the 4th group here. And, it's anything after 4 is the reason, which is used in this spreadsheet. It'll also group up the reasons, but so here is it checks if they're tabled or not passed. Failed isn't really an option because no one's ever used failed before, but they'll say like does not pass or not passed, like that. And so not passed covers that, and then tabled covers that. And so it checks to see if the reason includes that, because sometimes people like to format it like this. And then sometimes people, format it like the other way. I guess I can do does not pass. And yeah, that'll work too. And then it also checks if the next line does that. And actually, first it wants to make sure that the next line is indented further than the current line to see if it's a descriptor. So it does that by taking the current indent and then reading the next line's indent, seeing if it's bigger. The next line is bigger than the current one. And if it's true, then it knows it's a descriptor, and it will read to see, if this table doesn't pass, whatever. If that's true, it'll set the amount to 0 and continue the rest of the code like normal, because it still needs to put that information out. Okay. And then next, what it does is it will, so with the information of, because at max it'll have the amount, the multiple members, and then the one reason. And so what it'll do is for each member, it will go into the bonus standards map, set the key, or set the value corresponding to the key, which the key is the members, and then it has a list, which is their total bonus standard here, and then it'll have the reasons, which is another list, because they can have multiple occurrences here. And so what it'll do is it'll, if it's empty, because if it doesn't contain the member, it will set their default values to be 0 in an empty list. And then it'll get their old amount, their old reasons, add to the old amount, and then add to the old reasons. And then it'll set that member's key, or the member, it'll set that key's values to be the new amount and the new reasons. And it'll do that for every line in bonus standards until it's done. And then it'll look something like this. Like, this is pretty much just a visual representation of the bonus standards map. So you have the member, you have their total bonus standards, and you have the list of reasons. Okay. So after it runs the read bonus standards thing, and it makes sure that all the information is ready to be added, it's going to start updating the information. So it takes in the information, gets it all in program form, and then it's going to start trying to update it. And so if the bonus standards weren't affected, then it's not going to create a spreadsheet copy or update the live spreadsheet, because it's just going to be like empty if there are no bonus standards. So it doesn't need to make it. And it's also not going to try to update this one, because there's no reason to. Because if you were to make a mistake or something, it could reset one of these to be all 0, and that'd be bad. So it doesn't do that. And then otherwise, it's going to see if you want to create copies. If that's true, it will create a copy document named, the, oh, right, this is a function I made. Sorry. So it's going to run my create copy doc function, which it takes in the date that you want it to be. And so we'll go to that. And the way this works is it's pretty short. A lot of the text is just warnings. But so it's going to try and open the copy doc, or it's going to use, it's actually really nice. The Drive app has a built-in make copy function. And so you can just make a copy of the original document, and it's going to get the ID of it, because normally you could just have this be one line, but everything else is moving it into the folder. So it gets the ID of the newly created copy document, which would go into your main Google Drive, and then it sees if the folder is available. If it is, it sees if the folder is available. So to do this, it creates a new variable for folder to be put into. Warned is set to false here, so that it doesn't send you 2 warnings. The reason these are warnings and not errors that stop execution is because if there's ever any error with creating or moving something into this folder, it's just going to keep it in your main Google Drive, which it already has access to because it has access to these documents. And so it tries to see if it can find the folder. So this will work if Um, or I guess the reason this wouldn't work is if the folder is like private. Like if you were to type it in and it'd be like Google can't find this folder. Because if it's private, like belongs to someone else, or it's not shared with you at all, or it's not viewable, you're not gonna be able to find it, and then it'll send you that warning. Keep it in your main Google Drive. But if it does find it, it has to make sure that you're able to edit it. And if you're not able to edit it, then it's going to tell you it can't edit it, can't access it. So you should review your permissions and stuff. And after that, it's going to reopen that document and clear out the header that's up here, so that people don't accidentally, click on it while they're just trying to read their stuff. Okay. And then after it creates the copy document, it's going to create the copy spreadsheet, which it's only going to do if it's not empty, right here. Create a new spreadsheet, same naming convention. Create, and it will grab the active sheet because you can have multiple different spreadsheets, and so it'll just grab sheet 1 so it can edit it. And then what it does is it'll set the first, A to C1 or A1 to C1. It'll set it to, names, bonus, standards, reasons, and then it'll set these values. The row index, it's the second row, first column. The max column index is 0 because it needs to record how many columns there are used, so that it doesn't try and auto fit these columns to be different sizes, but it does the auto fitting. Yeah. So for each value and key in bonus standards map, it is going to grab the range of, so this is 2-1, set the name, increase column, and then it'll get the range of, all right, sorry. Increase the column this way. So it'll set the bonus standards by getting the range, setting the value. All right, key, because key's name. Sets value, which is the value 0, so the first value in the array that is for the value. It's just the bonus standard amount that's like been added and stuff. And then value 1 is the list that contains all the reasons. And so to do that, it'll go to the next column, and then it'll set it, or it'll loop through every reason for R in the reasons section of the value array. Loop through every reason. Every time it loops, it'll increase the column index so that it keeps going to the right. And then if the column index is larger than the max, it'll set the new max one. And then after looping through the first name, it'll add 1 to the row index, and it'll reset the column index. So it'll go down 1, and then it'll loop again through everything, go down 1, loop again. And then this is the resizing thing. And what it will do is it will, for each column until it hits the max column index, it's going to resize the column to fit the text, and that it'll add some padding to it, because otherwise it looks a little bit wonky. Like it looks like if I put like an L here or something, it'll be right next to the thing, and so it doesn't look very good like that. So it has the default padding of 4 pixels added. Also, keep in mind, if you want to make a project like this, you're looking at this for reference, that the Google spreadsheet, um, they start at 1 instead of 0. So you have to go until your column index instead of like 1 before, and you have to start at 1. Because like this is 1 1 and not 0 0 like it is for most things. Okay, and then it creates this, fills out everything, and has to see if the folder is available. It doesn't have warnings on this one because um, it's all done for the document. It doesn't. I don't want it to send you 2 warnings because it would kind of clog up the console. But sees if it's available. Don't move it if it's going to have an error. An old shebang. Okay. Next up, we have update the live sheet, which we go here, create copies, create the copy sheet, and then if it's not empty, we want to update the live sheet. Oh, right, because the live sheet actually returns something, and it wants to make sure that it doesn't have an error, because if there is an error, then it wants to end the execution before it tries to, before it, like, pretty much before it resets the document. We want to reset it, or we want to end execution so you don't accidentally lose all your information. But so update live sheet takes in the bonus standards map because it needs to run through the map. Then it will take the short time string so that it can find which exec we're referring to. So for this, it's November 32nd, which it's not a real date, just an example. But so that's the format it needs to be. It needs to be, exec, and then whatever date it is. Okay. So to do that, update live sheet. So what this does is it will grab the spreadsheet from the one you put up here, sheet ID, get that spreadsheet. I'm going to look for the tab named other because that's where it's stored in our fraternity's, main number spreadsheet. And then this is just here so that you can see it doesn't update stuff that it's not supposed to. Looks for other. This can be changed by the operator if something happens. It's right here. It's noted in the manual also that you should change this if that ends up changing. Next, it will look through and try and find the index of the column that has a matching date. If it doesn't find it, then lets the user know, and it will stop the program's execution because if it doesn't update, if they put in the wrong date, we don't want them to think that it did update correctly because it didn't. And then next, we're going to iterate through all the names. These are just some fun names I put in, but it'll get the names array by doing this little function where it takes a range. So it's basically like if I took my mouse, I did this. Well, it actually goes down to 99, which we're never going to have that many members. But you can always change this if you're looking at this and trying to figure out what's wrong with the program. This could be an issue if we somehow have 100 members. I guess 97 members or something, 96. But it'll grab all the members. It'll get their values. And by get values, what it does is it takes everything, converts it into a list. I'm pretty sure that if it's empty, it doesn't actually add it. I'm 90% sure. But okay. So whenever it grabs their name, oh right, that's what this code does. is it will loop through the values until it's blank. It's like, oh, it's blank. We should stop looping. But basically the same thing. Might be a little not memory efficient, but it's not. It's not gonna affect the end product in any way. And so to find the names is actually it was a little difficult because you can see here, everyone's referred to by their last name, or in case of people having the same last name, which is an issue we had to run into, or we didn't have to, but it's an issue we ran into this semester, where two people with the same last name, so, how are you supposed to update their names with the same last name? But to do that, it can take the first initial and look to see if that matches anyone. You see, like, Peter Griffin and Stuart Griffin, they have -5, and they're both supposed to get -5. Which, yeah, it's pretty nice. But, so, it splits the name by taking the current, where is it? Current index and so on. So it starts here, take the name, split it in two, so you have Peter and you have Griffin. And then the last name is, this second part, so it's Griffin. And the first initial is the first character, so char at 0, and then dot, and then space. So it's looking through. The name key is undefined because it's going to be defined down here. And so it'll check to see if the last name, or, alright, sorry. So what it does first is it tries to match the last name with the key in bonus standards map. So it'll, look through the map. And so we can use Griffin for example. So it'll look through, oh, it doesn't find him. If it doesn't find him, which is, if it's not undefined. So I guess if it does find him, so we'll use McGucket first. If it finds McGucket, then it will set the name key to be, the last name. So it knows that's the key that it needs to look through. And then if it isn't found, if it's undefined, if this returns undefined, then it will look for the first initial plus, oh right, because the first initial is the first initial plus the last name, just like the type of it. And so it'll look for, so if we use Griffin for example, look for Griffin. Oh, Griffin's not here. Okay, we'll go to the next method. It looks, oh, P Griffin right there. And then, so when it finds Peter Griffin, it'll set the name key to be the first initial. So it'll be P Griffin. So after running through everyone's name, it'll have all of these except for Fraternity because that's spelled wrong. But otherwise, it will set the value over here to 0 if it can't find. Wait, sorry. Let me read through this. I wrote this like, I don't know, a few weeks ago. So sets names, bonus standards amount to the value of bonus. Oh wait, I'm looking at here. Reset to 0. Row index, date index. Row index. So it has the date, the row. Oh, that's what it does. Okay, so if someone's name shows up that isn't on here, like Mario, he doesn't show up in here at all. So what that line does is it will set Mario's value for that day to be 0. In case, or if it needs to overwrite. So it doesn't like write in, you're like, oh, so you write it in and you're like, oh shoot, it's not supposed to be Mario. It's supposed to be whatever this is. What is this? Jimmy Neutron. It's supposed to be Jimmy. Jimmy's supposed to get one. And so fill in Jimmy and get rid of Mario, and then if you didn't have this line, it would run through and only update Jimmy, and Mario would keep his because it's like, oh, it's not on the list, doesn't need to be updated. But that's what that line does. It fixes that. And then it skips the rest because it doesn't need to set a value if it's setting it to 0 up here. Okay. And then set names bonus standards amount to the value that's found in the map. And so what this does is it gets the box it's supposed to have. It'll set the value to be, excuse me, the value found with the key, and it's going to get the first value from the little, key value, the value array. It's going to get the first value of that, which is going to be the bonus standards amount. And then once that's successful, it's going to delete it from the map, because in the unadded entries function, it needs a map of unadded entries. And so it'll remove it so that whenever it loops through the remaining entries, that's everything that hasn't been added, in case of a spelling mistake. That's what update live sheet does. Next up, we got, all right. And so earlier in update live sheet, right here, it returns false if it wasn't able to find the date because it's pretty bad. And so it'll stop execution, which is what this part does. Okay. And then if the bonus map has values in it, it's going to print the unadded values. So if it's everything worked out, then it wouldn't print anything, which is good. And then, but otherwise, it's going to notify the operator of unadded keys and values so they can do it themselves. But it will still update the copy sheet. The copy sheet doesn't care about that, because this is all the information that is in the program's mind. So this is all the raw information from here. And so you won't need to change this as the operator. You can just send this out. But you will need to change the official, place, the spreadsheet that you're using that you're outputting all of the information to. Right, the print on entries, pretty short. It says these names weren't able to be found. You got to fill them out manually, and then it prints them all. Really short function. Then a reset live doc is used to reset it from this to this. And what this does is it'll reset the date. To do that, it will grab line 4, set it to be set it to be this thing. It's weird whenever you run it, because whenever you change a line's text, it uses the font size of the previous line. I don't know if that's a bug, or if I was doing something wrong with this, but to get around it, I just copied the font size before I edited it and then set it to the same font size. So reset date, reset time start, the call to order and stuff. And then there's one down here for reset time end for adjournment. And to reset the body, so, this whole area. It's pretty simple. Starts at I6 because this is I4, so you keep that one, and then you go here. Checks to see if the indent is larger than 36, which, as we talked about before, is the indent that these things are on, the report headers. You know what I'm talking about, these things. That's what those are on. It's going to get the section count. If the section count is less than 1, it starts here. It will just clear the line so that it keeps the starting list thing it keeps the starting point of the list. Keeps the formatting, it's the same formatting as it is in here. Um, and it'll make it really easy to fill out for whoever's taking the notes. But it'll clear the first line, and then every other line after that, because after it goes through a section, it will add to the section count. Which this could honestly, it could just set it to 1. It doesn't really matter. But the section count is going to increase with each section under its corresponding parent. Could be child count too. These are children. But it'll remove the excess ones from parent, so like gets rid of everything after A. So that it's doesn't just reduce it to sorry. It doesn't reduce it to something like this. That would just be a pain. You have to clean it up. Like the whole point of this is so that the operator doesn't have to clean it up on their own. And then, yeah. So it'll reset the section count whenever it goes to a new area. So like when it goes from here, it'll count up all the sections, and then once it detects that we're back at 36, which is the predefined indent amount that we talked about earlier, it'll reset the time end, and then we're done. Resets the document if it's enabled, return, and that is how this whole program works. It's pretty nice. It makes things a lot easier because before you would just have to add all these values manually, and mistakes could happen, which this should definitely reduce mistakes. It can be expanded upon to cover 2 more sections of this. All the numbers can be covered by the program with a lot less effort than it took to originally create. But this should be really useful for the fraternity in the future. But yeah, if I make any updates, I will post an update video covering anything new, and I'm gonna start making more videos like this where it has a demonstration and a code walkthrough just for projects I make, like my portfolio website I'm working on, a game I'm working on. Those will be much more devlog-y because it's not going to be done for a while. But this was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you for watching. If you watched this whole thing through, you don't need to subscribe or anything. I mean, if you want to see more progress in my developer journey, you're free to subscribe. But yeah, I appreciate you watching through the whole thing. Listen to me rambling, But yeah, see ya.